Hello, and thank you for tuning in to Tutor Impact TV with Toby. Hello. So, the topic of today's video is distanced self-talk. And this is something that can help with your decision-making and also your emotional regulation. Before I explain what distanced self-talk is, I want to talk about King Solomon. King Solomon was the king of Israel between 970 and 931 BC. He's famous for building the first temple in Jerusalem, and he was the last king of a unified Israel. Now, people came to Solomon far and wide to hear his wisdom, and there are many stories of his wisdom. For example, in one story, two women came to Solomon because they wanted him to settle a dispute that they were having. So there was one baby, and both women claimed to be the mother of this child. So King Solomon said to the two women, "Okay, well, we'll cut the baby in half, and you can each take one part home." The first woman agreed to the proposal, but the second woman said, "No, please don't kill the baby, give it to the other woman." And King Solomon knew that it was this woman that said to not kill the baby that must be the mother, because she cared deeply for the baby, whereas the other woman didn't really seem to care. But while King Solomon had a lot of wise things and good advice to say for other people, he actually made a lot of mistakes, I suppose, in his own life. So he amassed more wealth and wives than was probably wise. He failed to raise his son into a fair and just ruler, and this resulted in rebellion and ultimately the division of his kingdom of Israel. But the thing is, we are all a lot like King Solomon. And this phenomenon of being better at reasoning about the problems of others and reasoning about our own problems is known as Solomon's paradox. This seems quite strange that we would make worse decisions when it comes to ourselves, because obviously we want ourselves to do well, and we're probably more invested in ourselves doing well than perhaps someone we don't know. But the thing is, all of these emotions and our investment in how things go for us actually gets in the way of our judgment. So how can we avoid the trap of Solomon's paradox and gain some much needed critical distance from our own thinking processes? Well, this brings me back to the subject of this video, which is distanced self-talk. Now, usually in our self-talk, we refer to ourselves as I. I have these thoughts in my head that go along the lines of, I am hungry, I am nervous, I am angry. But if we are to take a distanced self-talk approach, then it's as if we are looking at ourselves from a third-person perspective. So from the perspective of how a friend sees you or how a stranger sees you. So you can refer to yourself, for example, it's like you're looking down on yourself. So you can refer to yourself as, by your name. So I would say Toby is hungry or Toby is angry. And this just helps extricate me from my own story and the ideas I have about myself. And this can be very useful in a number of scenarios. You can use distanced self-talk when under pressure to help you maintain perspective and not get caught up in anxious and fearful ways of thinking. So behind me, you can see an image of the 2019 Oxford versus Cambridge varsity match. It's the 800-meter race, and I actually went on to win this race. And I think half of the reason for that is my ability to keep a cool head under pressure. So before this race, I reassured myself and said, Toby, you've done all the training. You are ready for this race. You just need to warm up and try your best. And by referring to myself in the third person, Toby, thinking about myself as Toby, not as I, I was able to remain calm and not get caught up in feelings of, oh, what if I fail? What if I trip? All of these scenarios that run through your head before a high-pressured situation. You can also use distance self-talk in day-to-day scenarios. Sometimes you're not having a good day and it feels like the world is out to get you. Bad things keep happening to you. Everyone else seems completely fine. It's only you that's falling victim to these bad occurrences. But by using distance self-talk, you can say, Toby, you've missed the bus. Lots of people miss the bus. So Toby, you should text your friend to let them know that maybe you're going to be a little bit late. And suddenly you realize, oh, that's not really a big deal at all. So again, it's an instance of getting too kind of caught up and wrapped up in yourself and being able to get out of that using distance self-talk and just see things from a higher perspective. So if you look behind me, there's this crowd of people, and you just kind of realize when you're referring to yourself in the third person that you're just another one of these people, and bad things probably happen to these people as well. Distance self-talk is an invaluable tool to help you make better decisions, regulate your emotions, and see things more clearly. But it's important to remember to keep things simple as well. Sometimes the best thing you can do is just to ask for the help or advice of somebody else. Because that person is not you, they won't be caught up in your problems in quite the same way you are emotionally. So they, like King Solomon, will be able to offer you good advice and see things that perhaps you couldn't. Finally, to summarize everything that I've covered today, the wisdom of King Solomon is within us all, and we can gain access to this by using distance self-talk. We can make better decisions as a result of using distance self-talk. We can gain perspective, we can regulate our emotions, but we also must not forget that asking other people for their advice is free. Thank you for tuning in to Tutor Impact TV with Toby. I'll see you next time.